Hello, this is David Cherry. What I want to discuss now is about how to get the height of an element using Jquery with a button click. Okay. Now there are prerequisites that you need to have for Jquery, and among those is having a basic understanding of JavaScript, and HTML and CSS. Without it, then it'll be really almost impossible for you to understand what I'm saying. So, a basic understanding. All right. Now, I left this note for me. Now, when it comes to CSS, all right, you have what's called external CSS. All right, you have internal CSS, and you have inline CSS. Okay, and what those are is the three ways to insert and/or use CSS within a web document. Okay. So let me show you what inline CSS is to explain what I'm saying here. Okay. Now, what we're going to do to view to view what you want on a web page, you want to basically do a right click and then go down on your context menu, view web page. Okay. And so this right here, if you'll see here, all this right here is called an inline CSS. Okay, and the style tag in HTML is what we call an attribute, and then all this is the value of the attribute in HTML. Okay, so you have to know HTML as well, and so all this right here is called inline CSS. Okay, now let's go back to the web document right here. All right, and when we talk about internal CSS, okay, let's just go down here and show you what I mean by internal CSS. All right, now an internal CSS in a web document or an HTML page, okay, which is a file, all right, would look like this. Okay, I would have style, and this would be opening tag, and then I have the closing style tag, which would look like this. All right. So if I want to, let's say, look at the height of an element and using CSS as internal CSS, okay, this height would be done like this. All right. So I would say the height of an element based on its ID. All right, so let's say I have an ID of a paragraph 1. Okay, in other words, I'm putting an ID there. All right, and then I do this right here, paragraph 1, and the height would be 25 pix, and which pixels. All right, and so this here is an example of what I mean by internal CSS. Now, if I'm talking about something other than that, like inline CSS, then inline CSS will be done like this within a paragraph. So this is the paragraph element in HTML when you write it down. Okay. Now, typically you want to have in your typically we'll just leave it like that, and then I have my paragraph, and then the inline style will be defined like this. Okay, all right, and then I would say let's see, height of the paragraph would be 25 pix. Okay, and so this here is what you call an inline style right here. All right, and so you have that would be inline style. Okay, and so as I said earlier, you have inline style. All right, then you have internal CSS, which looks like this. All right, and you also have what is called external style sheet, is where you'll have a link tag up here as well. Okay, but I won't get into that here. So now let's go back to what I'm trying to teach you or show you on what to do. Okay, so what we're interested in doing is getting the the height of an element using Jquery. Okay, and this is the web page I created right here in order to show you that, to teach you the tutorial. But before I do that, let me do another thing. If you really want to know how to program in Jquery or any language, I would advise you going to this website right here, because I don't have everything up in tutorial yet. And this is how I learned it. I went to what you call w3schools.com. It is the most comprehensive website and the best one for learning basic programming. Okay, when it comes to basic programming, in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Jquery, and a host of others as well. Okay. Anyway, but when you're doing jQueries, there's some basics you'll need to know, so I'm going to use them to help me teach this, because they've already got it wrote out. Why reinvent the wheel when I don't feel like it or don't have time? Okay. Now, the basic syntax, okay, would look like this. You have a selector, okay, and then you have the action, okay. All right, so if you look at this, you'll understand, the basic processes of explaining it, okay. And we call this dot notation. When you see stuff like this with a little dot here, that's called dot notation. All right. And so anyway, the pound sign is to define the access jQuery, how to define access jQuery. Okay. Then you have the selector, okay, to the query, which basically tells it what to do in the HTML elements. So, the selector to what to do. And once the selector is defined, okay, what I said is this right here, all right, then you perform your action, which is here. Okay. So anyway, and so you have these examples here. I'm not really prepared to teach this without doing a lot of hard study. I understand it. I've been doing it for a while, but I teach it at a different level, okay, on how to really understand syntax, okay. But this will give you what you need to know for syntax. And so when you're learning, I would say the best thing to do is to go to W3 Schools to learn. Okay, my tutorials are basically to prepare you to understand. In this case, what I'm working up to is to prepare you on how to, get the width, the height of an element. Okay, which they do there too, but to deal with it concerning with onload events, and the importance of onload events is what my little tutorial is actually building up to, because you can have some problems down the line without understanding the importance of how to do a body unload, or to do an unload event directly within jQuery, especially when it comes to images. Okay. But anyway, let's go on back over here. Okay, now this is the source code that we're interested in right here. Okay, for the whole web page. If you really want to get specific. But when it comes to jQuery, okay, the most important part, all right, is right here. Now this here is what called a function block that you just saw me highlight right here. This is called the function block. Now the function block for jQuery, like JavaScript, all right, needs to be within an opening and closing script tag. So this is your opening tag right here. This is your closing script tag right here. Okay, and when you do your function block, you're doing what is called a document.ready function, and that is required function within jQuery itself. It has to be written out exactly like this, okay, to create the function and to be able to use it. Okay, now remember, on the closing part of the function, all right, you'll need to have it look exactly like this. Don't forget to put this right here in it. It will not work if you don't. Okay, in JavaScript, when you create a function, you don't do it, but with jQuery, you have to. Okay, So anyway, you have your document.ready function. All right, and the thing to remember is, as I noted earlier in the other video, is that a function is actually an event in Jquery, okay, and it deals with, when the body is basically ready to be loaded and is ready, then it initiates the function. As I said earlier, I'm working to dealing with preloading images, okay, or preloading other things that may take a long time. It may not display correctly, and that's what I'm building up to. All right, but this video doesn't get into that. All right, and so, but anyway, in order to add the button, okay, we'll have to have this right here. Okay, now let's go back to the syntax. All right, if you go back to the syntax, okay, you know that the button is considered a selector. All right, so that's why we need to go back. So you have your selector right here, and then this is the action, all right, that the function is going to perform. All right, and then within this Jquery function of the document.ready function, I have a plain old-fashioned JavaScript alert, which is right here. All right. Now, being that we're interested in doing and getting the height of an element in Jquery, all right, the dot notation and the selector and action is different than it is in JavaScript. Okay, so here you have your selector, all right, right here, all right, and then was what we're interested in right here. Okay, this is your selector right here. The whole thing right here is a selector. All right, and that's different than the way we would do it in JavaScript. Okay, so anyway, but this right here is actually a plain old JavaScript alert. All right, and so basically what we want to do is and overall, when we go back to right here and we look at our document, I have my divide element. All right, it's all inlines. The style is defined inline. Okay, it's not external. Okay, and so it's all inline. And then I want to do create a button in HTML. Okay, so when you create a button in HTML, all right, let me see. This is the button in HTML that's created. Okay. So anyway, so you have the selector right here, and you have the event, which is a click event. Okay, and so that's how you create a button and a click event. Okay, and the button selector is what I'm really trying to say. You got to create a button selector. How you create a button selector in Jquery, and then associate that with this event, the click function. All right, and then you put it out as an out as an alert using JavaScript. Okay, and that's the basic code on how to do it. And so anyway, how to get the height and width of an element in Jquery. All right, and this code right here has to be followed exactly. Okay, without this code you cannot get the height. The same thing if you want to get the width, you just put the width right here if you want to get the width of an element in Jquery. So that's basically how we get the height and width of an element in Jquery. This is David Jquery. Thank you. What I would do is when you want to view the code and copy it, pause it on the video, and you can copy it and type it out, or you can go to this site right here, W3 Schools, and it'll give you a really good background where I'm not doing it, because it takes time to develop this stuff, but that's the code right here. And so just pause my video and type it out and have fun. And this is David Jquery. I thank you a bunch. Hope you liked the video, and it'll be a great reminder, with the video. That's what the video is for, is to give you the code and a reminder. You have a good day. Thank you very much.